squad. Alright, squad. We're just tuning in. Man, I'm gonna follow up from yesterday because I didn't get to finish everything, but my God, was this a bombshell of a video that dropped today? I was like, God dang, God dang, God dang, God dang. And yeah, this, I would say, is considered true crime. Like, no cap. Yeah, hold on. I'm just like setting up everything. Oh, God. My key fell out. All right. Almost done. Just like finishing up some things. Dog, I ain't go to gym today. The tragedy. Dog, I'll write like the song. Okay, I guess I'll just start the video then while I'm doing this.
Wealth.
Courtney Clenny was back in front of a judge today. She's accused of murdering her boyfriend.
Insanity.
So last month, Clenny and her attorneys had been asking the judge to let her await her murder trial at home.
Domestic violence.
The court indicates she had millions of dollars at her disposal.
Today we'll be looking at an online model that committed an unthinkable crime against their partner for seemingly no reason. And with
Broke in
that,
my
we
mouth.
wonder if there's any way to prevent incidents like this from happening in the future.
Murdering her boyfriend.
Insanity. Courtney Taylor Clenny was born in Texas on April 21st, 1996. Even from a young age, her
Oh my
parents felt that their
God.
daughter was destined for greatness. She was very athletic, participating in a
second,
variety of
dog.
activities including gymnastics and horseback riding. In spite of this, however, the adolescent didn't feel passionate about sports. Instead, her interests lay on an entirely different career path. Upon turning 13, Courtney pivoted to entertainment. The teen was determined and began attending acting, dancing, and voice classes. Within a year, she began appearing in commercials and eventually moved to Los Angeles after graduating. Before long, she took roles as an extra on titles such as Boyhood and Everybody Wants Some. And in 2015, she was cast in rapper G-Eazy's music video for Me, Myself, and I. While the aspiring actress began to get roles, she wasn't making much of a name for herself. Most of these appearances were uncredited and easy to overlook. It was perhaps for that reason she started to expand her horizons. In 2016, Courtney participated in her first bikini competition, the 2016 MPC West Coast Classic. She entertained 2 categories, Novice Class C and F, and won 6th and 9th place respectively. This recognition far exceeded any she had gotten before, and so it was only a few months later that she entered another contest called MPC Brew City. Courtney not only placed higher at this event, but walked away with the first place prize. Indeed, this victory cemented her status as a fitness model, as she was now qualified to enter national competitions. While this itself indicated the start of a successful career, it was ultimately a different aspect of the business that was the most lucrative. You see, Courtney had begun to document her journey in the fitness industry on the World Wide Web. This included a YouTube channel in which she'd answer questions about her diet and relationship status. But more importantly, it entailed titillating pictures of her physique across social media. This proved extremely popular, as she quickly accumulated a massive audience. In February of 2016, her Instagram sat at over 780,000 followers. By October of the next year, that number grew to 1.3 million. This attention caught the eye of Playboy magazine, who subsequently reached out to the model for a photo shoot. It was clear that Courtney had a knack for monetizing the male gaze, but there was still one more venue that she hadn't taken advantage of, a step that could easily earn her millions. It was around the same time that the adult subscription service OnlyFans was launched. Within the first 3 years, the site amassed
Nothing against it, but yeah, like there's like some people we gotta question like
over 12
what we're
million
watching
users,
right now.
but it wouldn't enter mainstream consciousness until the pandemic. And as you can probably guess, Courtney was part of that wave. The model began to sell exclusive and not safe for work material on the platform. This ranged from nude photo shoots to videos of herself twerking. It was advertised alongside the offer of allowing men the opportunity to talk with her. This immediately drew huge returns, with her account exploding in popularity. In fact, by the end of the year, she made over $960,000 from the site. This newfound wealth enabled her to move back to Austin, renting out a penthouse suite at the Berkshire Riverview complex that June. Though Courtney was uploading nudes of herself online, she had yet to offer footage of full-blown intercourse. That changed in 2021 with the release of her own amateur tapes. This boosted her popularity even further, as by the end of the year she reached over 2 million followers on Instagram.
Damn.
But that was far less staggering than her earnings from OnlyFans,
Bro, I swear these parasocial relationships are out of hand.
bringing in over $1.8 million that year. The model went from an aspiring actress to a multi-millionaire. Given that she now had a boyfriend, the question many of her fans raised was over the identity of the man in her videos. Her partner was eventually revealed to be Christian Toby Obumseli, a 27-year-old who also grew up in Texas. Initially studying to be an engineer, he would luck out as a relatively early adopter of Bitcoin. When the two got together, Christian was supporting himself as a full-time crypto trader. It's not exactly certain when they began dating, but by the fall of 2020, they were living together at the Riverview Suite. From that point forward, the couple would make videos for her OnlyFans. While her content and social media posts showed the highlights of their relationship, not everything was as it seemed. In fact, those who knew Christian and Courtney in real life would bear witness to a far darker, morbid picture. We'll learn more about this after a brief word from our sponsor. It's always a good thing to spice up your relationship with your partner. And if you're looking for products...
Bro. Sorry, dude. Like, you get your money, but yeah, y'all know how it be over here.
Complex is popular amongst young, wealthy professionals due to its proximity to the downtown area. Even still, Courtney was able to distinguish herself from the other residents. Upon moving in, neighbors recalled that she frequently hosted loud parties. She also boasted often about making a living off of OnlyFans. Yet their initial experiences, for the most part, were positive. One reflected that she seemed bubbly at first, and was extremely generous with her money. They noted her affinity for gift-giving, and stated, honestly, she was a nice person. She wanted to just have a good time and make people happy. But that affability seemed to disappear whenever the model was intoxicated. The first indication of Courtney's struggle with alcoholism came in 2015. While living in California, the actress was arrested for public intoxication. This
Dude, it's just like
though it remains
the lifestyle. Like, this is why I keep saying, like, in general with hedonism, I got no problem if people want to, live their life like that. Like, if people want to like have fun, go clubbing, like, be my guest. But the thing is, when it becomes like an addiction, like instead of like going for more of a self-help approach, you just get into this lifestyle, this like party like all the time lifestyle, and that's just like this like temporary pleasure thing.
This year, Her next run-in with the law wouldn't be until after she began dating Christian. On September 16, 2020, she was arrested for driving under the influence. The model was released on a bond of $8,000 and was forced to install a breathalyzer in her car. That timing is not coincidental, as it's clear her substance abuse only got worse as the relationship continued. The same resident who complimented Courtney would also state, when she was intoxicated or using, it was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This observation is even more concerning in context with another neighbor statement to Rolling Stone. We crossed paths during her move-in. She was headed out to walk her dogs, and I stopped to say hello. She was just obliterated, completely drunk out of her mind, slurring words. It struck me as strange, and when I tell you, I never saw her sober again. As residents were further exposed to their toxic relationship, those warm impressions quickly wore off. They recalled seeing Courtney publicly demean Christian on several occasions. It began as offhand remarks, like saying the relationship wouldn't last, and she was just dating him for now, while he was in the room. But that soon escalated to more physical embarrassments. On several occasions, Courtney was seen reprimanding him in a bizarre manner. There were multiple times where she was kind of hitting him, not aggressively, but like how you'd punish a dog, when you tap them on the head once or twice. These paint Christian as quite passive, something one of the neighbors would comment on directly. She would walk in front, and he would always walk behind her, basically not even looking at people. Others recalled several explosive fights and the sounds of screaming, slamming doors, and broken glass. In one such incident, she threw a suitcase filled with Christian's belongings off their balcony. It landed in the middle of a retention pond and shattered, never being recovered. To reconcile, she bought him a Louis Vuitton suitcase. In March of 2021, a resident heard screaming in the building's garage while walking to her car. She ran towards the sound, only to find the couple. She recounts, Christian was opening the door and trying to get her in, not pushing her but saying go, and she was swinging. I started yelling,
it just
hey,
feels like
and
a
she
lot
went
of
inside and slammed the door.
narcissism.
The woman then walked up to Christian, who began apologizing. He explained that she was really drunk, and he just wanted to make sure she got home safe. As he walked past her, she noticed that he had marks on his face that looked like scratches, and his shirt was torn at the collar. These disturbances continued until January of 2022, when the couple moved to a luxury condo in Miami.
Bro, I swear some of these people, and you guys know who I'm referring to, they really need a wellness check, because this narcissism behavior, oh my god, it's a disease. It's a sickness.
Miami, Florida. But of course, even with the new environment, the relationship did not
Yeah,
change.
I think they
This
moved to
footage
Florida. I'm like, God, dude, like, get away from here.
from an elevator camera is dated February 21st, just a month after they moved. It begins with Courtney repeatedly pressing a button on the panel before lashing out. Once Christian enters, she begins hitting and shoving him unprompted. She then
Yeah, I
attempts to
saw,
strike him on
dude,
the
I
head,
saw this on the news. And the thing is, you know, I don't know why I forgot about this. I was like, God, bro, like, I wanted to talk about this someday, but, you know, this kind of brought me back, because I think there was, like, so much going on. And this went under the radar, but, you know, the fact, you know, Game for Mars covered this is like, it's a real thing, dude.
forcing him to push her away. Their arguments were reportedly so loud that even neighbors 2 floors above them
Dude, imagine if the elevator didn't capture this. Like, it would have been a different
could
story.
hear the fighting. It was to the point that police were called several times, and management were in the process of evicting them. Perhaps that could have been the catalyst for the relationship ending for good. But tragically, that day never came, as on April 3rd, law enforcement was called to the apartment one final time. That Sunday began peacefully, as the couple played with their dogs in the apartment. Around noon, Christian left to get food, returning home at approximately 4:32 p.m. This detail is important because 25 minutes later, she called 911 to report that he'd been stabbed. In the background, Christian could be heard saying, "I think I'm going to die." Courtney then replies, "I'm so sorry, baby." When authorities arrived, they found her cradling the man's body, which had an apparent knife wound to the chest. She was dressed in a thin black bra, gray sweatpants, and covered in his blood. Christian was immediately rushed to Jackson Memorial Hospital, but the injury was fatal, and he passed away. He was only 27. Given that she was
Man, I feel bad for dude. He seemed like a good dude as well. Like, the fact that he had to, like, take her hits. Oh, man. Like, fellas, please, if you're ever in that type of relationship, and I've seen many and heard many of them, and I understand a lot of them have told me that they're hard to move from, or you can't, like, really just, like, leave easily. You know, it's easier said than done. They have told me that, and I think it's just, like, a lot of mental manipulation. Like, sometimes you really need that strong will just to, you know, do what's right.
the only suspect, Courtney was handcuffed and subsequently brought in for questioning. There she provided several inconsistent accounts about the incident. She first claimed to have armed herself with a knife after Christian shoved her against the wall by the neck, though not choking her. Then she claimed that he threw her to the ground but allowed her to get up. There were no injuries on her body to corroborate either of these accounts. In describing the stabbing, she claimed to have thrown the knife at him from a distance of 10 feet. She also commented, "I do not think that this was, I don't know. I really don't know if this was justified at all." This interrogation, however, would be cut short when Courtney began to threaten her own life. You see, Florida has a law known as the Baker Act. It allows for the institutionalization of people thought to be at risk to themselves or others. Because of this, the murder suspect was swiftly transferred to a mental health facility for evaluation. This psychiatric hold can only last up to 3 days. But once that time lapsed, rather than be subject to further questioning, Courtney was allowed to walk free. This fact enraged the
Oh
public, who
my,
were upset that an
bro.
alleged
Florida is an L, bro. Like, as Florida man, that is a major L. Like, goddamn. Florida, we gotta do better, dog. Especially you, MIA. I'm speaking to you.
murderer wasn't in any form of custody, so much so that one woman would spot Courtney at a hotel bar a week later and confront her directly.
Yeah, you should go. Because you just killed your boyfriend. Yeah, you did.
The clip was then posted to Instagram
How does
with
she?
the caption,
How does she have no remorse? Oh my god. Dude, she's a psychopath.
Courtney Taylor thought she could casually sit at the bar with her father after she brutally murdered her boyfriend on Sunday. MPD police, does this look like a mentally unstable person to you, as she claims? In response, her lawyer would issue a statement through TMZ alleging that his client was acting in self-defense. He claimed that Courtney was the victim of physical, emotional, and mental abuse, and even suggested she may have been the victim of human trafficking. Christian's family would start a GoFundMe to help pay for funeral arrangements, as well as call for justice. Included in the headline was a phone number asking readers to demand an investigation. It has so far reached over $80,000. It would be months before Courtney would face any kind of serious legal repercussion. This is,
Jesus
once
Christ,
again, in
dude.
spite of the
Oh my
aforementioned
god,
open
this story just gets worse. I'm
warrant in
sorry.
California. Following the hotel spectacle, she fled to Hawaii and remained there up until her arrest. But that was only after spending $1.3 million to buy a 3,000 square foot home down the street from her parents. In the meantime, the public began to dig through the couple's online history and unearthed some rather questionable comments. 3 days after his murder, several tweets Christian had made in high school would resurface. They showed him disrespecting black women in favor of white women. The screenshots were shared
Oh
with the
my
caption,
God.
"When you get murdered, by your preference." In the replies, people began to express disgust, with one stating, "My sympathy has dropped to 0%. 2 weeks before the stabbing, Courtney appeared on the We in Miami podcast. There, she went on record to state her own dating preferences as well.
You look like the type of girl that only dates like rich guys. Is that true?
No, that's not true. I only date black guys. Especially black guys. Especially black guys.
On August 10th, Courtney was finally arrested and charged with second-degree murder. She was extradited to Florida 2.5 weeks later.
Yeah, dude, like, it just seems like a fetishization, dude. Like, yeah, that makes more sense. It's like really a fetish. Like, oh my god, it's just a recipe for disaster.
This only came after law enforcement began to question the idea that she had acted in self-defense. One Miami detective would admit, "I learned that Christian was always the one trying to calm the situation."
Okay, so yeah, in that regard, when it comes to the concept of mixed couples, like, I got nothing wrong with it, but you know, I myself, you know, would be interested in one. But the thing is, if you start like fetishizing it like that, I start raising eyebrows. I'm like, okay, like, what's really going on here?
Down. Based on the messages and everything else, he was always the one getting...
And yeah, I think both of them were wrong in that regards, but, you know, like, you know, we got to put that aside in this situation, but, you know, they were both wrong.
Hurt. And the defendant is the one unable to control herself and hurt him. The arrest warrant gives insight to details not previously known to the public that expose even more contradictions in her story. The claim that she'd thrown the knife was demonstrably not true. The autopsy revealed the injury was caused by a powerful and downward thrust. The crime scene indicated that Christian had bled for an extended period of time before police arrived, and phone records show that her mother had been on call during the entire incident. She recalled hearing her daughter yell that Christian was lying and demanding him to leave the apartment. Despite all of this evidence, Courtney would plead not guilty. On November 2nd, a series of secret recordings were released to the public. Christian had apparently taken them on his phone to chronicle their various arguments. In one clip, Courtney can be heard screaming at him because he said hello to a female acquaintance while biking. She calls him the N-word several times before hollering, "Shut up and let me slap you." She then orders him to find her effing phone and charge it. Another came after Courtney jumped out of their car to attack another motorist. Christian can be heard pleading for her to get back in, as she begins banging her head. She then explains to a passerby that Christian told her to apologize to the man for hitting her. She then shouts, "F you, you make yourself look good in front of people. You just told me to effing apologize to a lowlife. You're supposed to protect me." Moments later, the sound of slapping can be heard as they get back in their car. Christian is then heard pleading, "Stop hitting me." But the most harrowing one is from just a month before his death. In this video, Courtney is captured stating, "I'm actually not having a good day, where I actually, literally, effing want to kill you, but you don't take me seriously." On November 5th, text messages between the two were published. In an excerpt from October of 2021, he mentions that she stabbed him in the leg, and that the pain was so bad he could barely walk. "I woke up happy. I took you to Vegas and drove right back. Helped you shoot, drink with you, did blow with you just so you're having a great day. And I'm doing all of this while my leg hurts so effing bad. Did I make you feel like
Dude, no, this is what I'm saying. Like, this toxic hedonistic lifestyle is just self-destruction.
and hope tomorrow will be better. In another message, he references being sliced in the face with a knife. She then apparently slapped his stitches to prevent them from healing. He also mourns being cheated on, kicked out, and called a slur before solemnly asking, "Is love going to kill me?" Courtney's lawyer would continue to argue the stabbing wasn't self-defense. He also requested that any salacious materials, including homemade pornography, be held from the public. This motion was denied by the judge. Prosecutors would argue against a pretrial release, viewing her as a flight risk. They pointed to her massive wealth from OnlyFans, with the model earning $300,000 in August alone. The filing also revealed that after the murder, she wired $1 million to her father, which they felt was an attempt to hide assets. In response, her father appeared in court to argue in his daughter's favor. He claimed that her net worth was considerably lower, testifying she only had about $11,000 to her name, and $375,000 equity in her house. The money was apparently transferred as she was a mess due to trauma, which worsened after April 3rd. He then pointed out her OnlyFans was banned after the arrest, noting he wasn't aware of its existence until recently. Courtney would be denied bail a month later.
Bro. The dad finds out about it now that she's in court. God dang. Okay. Like, what is going on, dude? Like, oh my god. This one just... It's like really blood boiling, not gonna lie.
Resulting in her leaving the court in tears. As of the time of writing, Courtney Clenny's trial is ongoing. So there you have the story of the OnlyFans girl that killed her boyfriend, which just goes to show that domestic abusers come in all shapes and sizes. And with that, I think I'll end the video here. So until next time, thanks for...
Yeah, oh my god, yeah, like, dude did a good job explaining that, but, oh my god. That was a rough watch, I'm not gonna lie. That was, like, such a rough watch, like... I heard it was bad, but I did not think it went to that extent, like... Oh my god, like, she's just, like, pure narcissist. I'm surprised they didn't diagnose that when she went to like the psychiatric ward. Like, God, man. So yeah, like usually, I think this should be treated as equal as if it was like the other way around. And the thing is, Hassan. I know Hassan is not gonna talk about this. Bruh, like, bet he's not gonna talk about this because the moment he talks about this and he tries to say, that he was, and he tries to like kind of find like a way to appeal to his fans. Ooh, bruh, like Fresh and Fit are gonna go crazy over it. They're gonna weaponize that. If they get this, they're gonna weaponize it towards Hassan and towards their fans. And like, I don't want to go down the comment section because there's like a lot of real pill poppers. And yeah, dude, it's gonna be a mess. It's gonna be a bloodbath. Like, no. My God. But yeah. Let me know what you guys think about that. Cause yeah, that was like a bombshell. Oh yeah, like we gotta see Sean C. But yeah, I wanted to see that with you guys because, when it dropped, I was like, oh my god, this just came. And there definitely is like a double standard. Like, let's be honest, be for real.
It's a sad day. If you're a Tory Lanez fan, I've tried my best.
Alright, so he goes into like the Tory Lanez situation, dog.
It's a sad day. If you're a Tory Lanez fan, I've tried my best to stay silent over the last 2 years, and just grab as much information as I could from outside sources, news outlets, media platforms that I had a bit more of an expectation and hope for, and covering something like this with a little less bias to over time update my knowledge of the situation so that come trial time, I'm going in with as much information as humanly possible and not being swayed by my own bias. Though in the beginning, I believed that Megan Thee Stallion was telling the truth, I don't take joy in the fact that the jurors also believed what she was saying as some like sense of joy or hoorah or hooray, because at the end of the day, she was still shot and was the victim to an assault. And just because Tory Lanez is about to be sentenced within the next month or two doesn't mean that the ramifications of this assault end end here. Once everyone who's been covering the situation stops covering it, there still comes a level of rehabilitation and reintegration into the world without most people or a lot of people thinking that you're lying about being assaulted and taking the side of someone that you claimed as your abuser. Tory Lanez has officially been found guilty in the case of shooting Megan Thee Stallion. And just like in the video that we talked about where Kanye was on Drink Champs, basically arguing the technicalities of what could have led to George Floyd's death, even though it is documented what actually caused his death, and my refusal to go over why he was wrong, because I was at the point in my mind in believing that if you wanted to believe that Kanye West was telling the truth about that, and you wanted to have doubt over whether or not George Floyd actually died the way he died, there's nothing or no amount of convincing that anyone can do to take your mind off of not wanting to believe the events happened the way that they happened. And so the same thing reigns true here. I feel like going over the case with people who already want to believe that Tory Lanez was not the shooter is pointless. It's irrelevant and a waste of time. So it won't matter if I tell you that Kelsey's original statement to prosecution was that Tory Lanez was the shooter and she cooperated majority of Megan's story only 2 months ago. It won't matter that blatant attempts at taking out of context the information that was provided in regards to the weapon that was used to shoot Megan Thee Stallion were constantly reposted and spread by major media outlets, despite having...
Yeah. I saw that. There was like a lot of blogs that were like spreading different narratives, and I'll be honest, I was like, oh my god, this is like new. Like there was like so much information, misinformation going around, and it just like messed up my judgment, because a lot of us were like, yeah, like Tory was like definitely, you know, guilty because the way he was reacting, but then he's just started going around and like gaslighting and making these like blogs like just like twist, you know, what the truth is.
Having to do just 5 short seconds of fact checking that'll inform you that his fingerprints weren't on the magazine, but instead were on the weapon itself, and that there were too many fingerprints on the weapon, so it was labeled inconclusive. It won't matter the signs of guilt that were indicated by Tory Lanez's text message to Megan Thee Stallion the night of the shooting. It won't matter that Kelsey originally put the blame on Tory the night of the shooting as well. None of these things will matter because you want to believe what you want to believe. I just think it's a waste of time trying to pretend as if we're being objective about our opinions here. You know, I'm not going to try to argue you down. If those are your beliefs, then those are your beliefs, and me wasting my time trying to provide all these different hows and whys and theories isn't going to change that. But what we can agree on is that Tory Lanez was found guilty, and I would be up here saying the exact same thing if he were found innocent. So to everyone, and there were a lot of you niggas that were sitting back and saying, I need to wait for the trial to happen, I need to wait for justice to be served, I'm going to let the court do its job. Now that it's done its job, why do I have to deal with skepticism and all these other theories about possible jurors being paid off? And that's still crazy. And this sets a dangerous precedence for young men in the world. No, I think it sets a slightly decent precedence for young men who decide to shoot people in the world, but that's just my opinion. Never before do I feel like the level of accountability for media outlets has been at such a low bar for what is defined as like good journalism. Within certain communities and within certain spaces, it's become publicly acceptable to trash Megan Thee Stallion. And so in these spaces, multiple rumors have been spread without being corrected. Within the communities that these media outlets tend to breed, have time and time again decided to display some of the most gross negligence in fact-checking and objectivity I've seen in a long time. Now, to sit up here and say that there are media outlets that don't have their own biases, I'd be lying. Obviously, those don't exist, but I think there are definitely media outlets in covering this case and in covering the news in general that do a much better job at hiding where their allegiances lie, as opposed to the ones that have covered this Megan Thee Stallion case. And the reason in this case why it's so egregious is because most of these media platforms know and accept that Megan Thee Stallion is the victim to the crime, but refuse to allow their bias against her to crumble underneath the overwhelming fact that she was the victim to a shooting. Even in search for what they believe to be the quote-unquote truth, have allowed their want for Megan Thee Stallion to become the face of victims, praying so desperately for a not guilty conviction from Tory Lanez, to progress the narrative that there are many more women who lie about being assaulted than the media is willing to let on, for some weird sense of vindication from the online narrative that men are trash. They've allowed this entire case to be the stepping stone for man versus woman, as opposed to just Tory versus Meg. Actually, the state of California. Not someone who actually goes outside and interacts with both men and women. I'll tell you, the gender war is not real. Need to die on the hill.
100%. Like there might be some incidents you might run into, but like for real, if you go out and touch grass, it's Twitter and real life are 2 different things. So if you guys are getting paranoid, like calm down.
Hill of disbelieving every single woman that comes forward about an abuse story about a man that you don't even know. And granted, you can say the same thing about a woman and remain neutral, but this is a case where I've seen just so much blatant, weird hate being thrown at somebody who we all acknowledge is the person who was shot.
How does Tory have non-fingerprints on the gun and gets guilty on all charges? Everyone has an opinion, but this weird.
That's not
because I know trash music is coming since and all the nutrags toxic females going to eat this up. The Dax thing I see too.
Just Burner, calm down to misogyny for a second. I hear what you're saying, but the question you just asked lets me know that you get your information from Twitter. His fingerprints weren't on, it was a part of the gun that his fingerprints weren't on. But his fingerprints on the gun itself were there. There were too many other fingerprints on the gun as well, which is why they labeled it inconclusive. And I remember, once again, that is the story that I'm disappointed about. That is the story that I'm disappointed about because media outlets put shit like that out there and then niggas who don't do any research for themselves just eat it up. This is the same, well, it's not the same, it's not the same. But when George Floyd passed away, well, was killed basically, the amount of niggas who were chanting the shit that Kanye was talking about in that Drink Champs interview, oh yeah, technically he might have actually died from the fentanyl or from the actual other drugs he was taking. No, nigga, they have it documented what he died from. Because you get your information from Twitter and from fucking media outlets that aren't certified and don't have any like degrees in journalism or anything like that, You believe a couple frame or a couple word tweet, which is why the niggas felt like they could get away with that shit yesterday of, oh yeah, let's just say Tory Lanez is not guilty, even though we have no proof of anything. Niggas like you who said that shit just now, let me know that you feed into it so much that these niggas think that they can just post anything on a situation that's real and get away with it with no consequences.
By the way, I know he said about like the college thing, but I think in order to be a good journalist, you just gotta go out, and touch
Oh, my
grass
bad, we
with
just made it wrong.
people
We fucked.
and not be around, all this like corporate like stuff, like a corporate journal. I think if you're like an independent like journalist on your own accord and you try to like create something new and be more open minded, I think that's much better than a person that got a degree in the corporate journal job. That's just my opinion. I know he said that, but like again, you still have like rap TV, like say cheese, like they just go all over the place. Like yeah, in that regards I understand, but I'm going too much into this, but yeah, you don't necessarily need what he's saying.
Up. Let's delete the post. No, nigga, it's not that easy. It's not that simple. You don't just get to throw out misinformation, besmirch somebody's name, and insinuate that they lying, and then go back, redact it, and be like, oh yeah, my bad. You don't get to do that. People pick and choose which portions of the witnesses or the people who went to testify, they pick and choose which parts of it they want to believe versus which parts they don't. It's just Tory Lanez is not the nigga that I'm willing to put my reputation on the line for. Like, if this is the nigga, if this is the hill that you're going to die on, there's much better niggas to do it with. Obviously, as a person who's against prison as a form of rehabilitation, I don't enjoy Tory Lanez being put behind bars for however long he's ultimately going to get, which for some people who are overreacting to the sentence, he's not going to get 22 years. He's probably not going to get 10. Realistically speaking, he might get 5 to 7, and I think if they go easy on him, he could get 3. Him getting 10 is probably unlikely, especially for the type of situation that this seemed to be. I think the most reasonable take, based off everything that I've been able to gather, is he did it by accident, but initially drew the weapon to intimidate. Don't change the fact that she got shot. But people pretending like this is somehow like an attempted murder charge, that's not what it is. Even though I'm against that form of rehabilitation, I think that there should be genuine forms of rehabilitation to address what seems to be an anger issue on Tory Lanez's part, as we've seen time and time again through the history of his career with conflict.
Fantano was actually happy, but I agree with Sean C's like take in the form of rehabilitating because I feel, if you just like throw them in crude like environments, they're not gonna change. In fact, they're gonna get worse.
With Travis Scott, August Alsina, rapper Dex. Preference in this case is just closure for the victim. That's it. I'm also disappointed in media outlets for allowing misinformation to fester and spread within their community and purposefully not addressing it out of some weird sense of solidarity with Tory Lanez. There's a lot of content creators and even some news outlets that I will never be supporting again because of them publicly antagonizing who they knew was a victim. That to me is weirdo shit. Even rappers, the biggest, decided to take their shots. Also, keep in mind, I don't like the justice system. I think many times, especially as it pertains to black people, they get it wrong. It just so happens in this case, I believed Megan Thee Stallion before this case ever went to trial. I actually congratulated Tory Lanez during this entire accusation process for constantly and consistently releasing new music because I believed that he was releasing so much material in anticipation for his likely demise. The possibility that he would be found guilty and serve some time, some significant time. And the music that he released in the meantime may hold his family and his peoples over while he was in. But with the risk of him being deported, not being able to tour, and even the slight possibility of his music being removed from streaming platforms, is looking like his career is about to take a massive nosedive. I got nothing else to speak on. I'm glad that she's working toward getting some closure. Never believed that Tory Lanez was the hill that you should be dying on. You can ultimately move on to the next guy to feed your insecurities into until they ultimately become your next martyr. Tory Lanez fans, don't do nothing to yourself, okay? Go be with your family. It's Christmas. Okay?
Honestly, I think this is like a more healthy approach. Oh my god. Like, yeah. What else could I say? Oh yeah, we're gonna watch Charlie. What else could I say? So long, good night, so long and good night. Oh, here we go. Yeah, this one was wild, dog. I don't know what was going
There have
on.
been more fights at Waffle Houses than the entire history of the Roman Colosseum, It's a place where people go mainly just to throw down, it seems, and then maybe get like a waffle to celebrate either a victory or rub it in their wounds after a tough loss. I wouldn't be surprised if one of the prerequisites for being a waitress or waiter at a Waffle House is a black belt in Muay Thai. The food really is secondary to the true Waffle House experience of being able to be either a spectator in a brawl or a participant. Waffle House is a lot like my asshole. You just never know when shit's gonna pop off, and it feels like it's always just a matter of time before a fight breaks out. It's got this big reputation now as the go-to Thunderdome for giving or receiving ass whoopings. It's like almost a curse that haunts Waffle House, where you go in there in a good mood, but the second you cross that threshold, it's like that scene out of Kingsman at the church where everyone just like flips on this switch and they're just fighting each other. I don't know what exactly it is about Waffle Houses that bring out the demon, but yes, it is well known now how often fights happen there. And recently there was a massive one that made headlines everywhere, and I didn't even cover it on my channel. I've covered a lot of Waffle House fights, but this one a lot of people noticed I was uncharacteristically silent on, thinking that I was like a Waffle House hipster where this fight was too mainstream for me to talk about, but nothing could be further from the truth. I was as entertained as everyone else was. I'm sure all of you have seen the big brawl by now. I can't show you any clips because with the YouTube's new policy, I would get fucked in the mouth so quick for doing that. So I already know you've seen the brawl, but the thing is, I enjoyed it. I just didn't have a whole lot to say about it. It was mainly grappling. There was like not a whole lot of like squaring up and delivering knuckle sandwiches. It was pretty much grappling until the end, where it finished with a WWE-style chair throw, which led to a now historic internet moment. This iconic parry.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
That was a
Jesus.
frame-perfect parry, like something out of Dark Souls. She got
wait, let me see. Right, yeah, that looked like really fantasy-like.
Chair throw, which led to a now historic internet moment. This iconic parry.
Wait, was this in Texas or in Florida? Wait, let me see. Oh god, please do not let it be Florida. It looks like a Florida. Or it could be a Texas. Okay, so it is Texas. Oh my god. Okay. So this is a former Waffle House employee who went viral when she swatted a chair that was flung at her during a wild brawl. She was blacklisted by the chain. She acted in self-defense. The woman identified as, I don't know if I should say her name, but it's in the news, has posted a lengthy YouTube video called WHW Storytime, where she minces no words as she recounts the incidents from 2021. Are you kidding me? It happened that long ago? I was blacklisted. Okay, so yeah, let me see what she said. I was blacklisted. I can't ever work for Waffle House again. I tried working for another similar earlier this year, and they found out I was blacklisted. Haley says, I just said her name! No! I didn't want to say her name, but I said it. Okay, it could be any. But there, oh my god, it just slipped. Was seen facing off against a group of rowdy customers at Waffle House joint in Austin, Texas. Okay, Florida didn't take the L this time. In her video, she says the 6 people sat in the section that was closed off to reduce the influx of customers during a busy night, but ignored her request to move and demanded immediate service. I worked at a Waffle House on and off for 4 years. I worked my way from being a waitress to being a rock star, she says, adding that the chain doesn't give that honor just to anybody. The 6 come in and they loud. They're making noise. Cool, everybody's loud, everybody's drunk. It's after last calls. Bars are closed, so you can go home. You don't have to go home, but you can stay here. Type thing, she says. God, dude. Yeah, that is a wild. Bro, forget I said her name. This happened in 2021 too.
Like something out of Dark Souls. She got iframes out of that right there. That
I gotta see that in like a slower frame rate. Play that back, Brody.
which led to a now historic internet moment. This iconic Perry.
Oh my god. Wow. That is
That was
wicked,
a
man. Dude, I don't know what it is about food service, but it makes people really angsty. That's like next level hangry.
frame perfect parry like something out of Dark Souls. She got iframes out of that right there. That is an absolute game ender. She threw that chair with velocity too. That was a cannon. And she not only deflected it, but she like fucking spun it around her forearm here and then threw it to the ground. It was so flashy. Fucking anime couldn't have been smoother than that. It was nutty, and it took the internet by storm. There's tons of edits around this now, with like John Cena being the one throwing the chair. It went super viral. However, this actually had a wildly detrimental impact to that lady's career. She got fired for this, which I think is just wrong. She didn't start the fight. It's a fucking Waffle House. A fight is inevitable. It's like trying to stop the wind from blowing. She was powerless, so what did she do? Defend herself, which I think is totally within her right to do. She shouldn't lose employment because she deflected a chair. Now, I do realize that leading up to this, she was actively engaged in this brawl, but even still, I don't blame her. The brawl broke out, and she was defending herself as well as her fellow employees. It's something I don't think she should have lost her job over, but it goes even deeper than that. Not only did she lose her job, it seems she's been banned from ever working at a Waffle House again, which makes no sense. She should be like the head of security for Waffle House going forward. She should be training other employees on how to handle situations the way she did. Like, just imagine the wisdom she could share with everyone. By the end of her training, Waffle House employees will be able to slap bullets out of midair. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. She was punished for something I don't think she even did wrong. So, it's a big L from Waffle House. I'll go ahead and show you from the articles where she posted a video going over it.
Can't ever work for Waffle House again. I tried working for another one, like sometime earlier this year, and I found out that I was blacklisted.
That's so fucked up. After a successful parry like that? Man, Waffle House is so dumb for that. She should honestly have been promoted. She could have been the face of their marketing campaign. Like, yeah, we know we have a reputation for fights breaking out, but now we have our own Batwoman. And then it's just like her parrying chairs or something. They could have really leaned into it. Fucking stupid L Waffle House, man. Jesus. I don't know how they couldn't see this easy slam dunk for PR. What was she supposed to do? Just let it hit her in the face? I don't think she was blacklisted for parrying the chair. I think she got blacklisted because it might be company policy that when a fight breaks out and you're like participating, you get fired. I don't think.
Yeah, I think that's what happens. Like, if you stand up for yourself, you gotta take it, dude.
She got hit in the face with it or like, not. She was like, she threw the salt shaker. Oh, was she the one that threw the salt shaker? Okay, then that was probably it. Even still, though, this whole brawl isn't her fault. If they fire everyone who gets in fights at Waffle House, how are they still finding so many employees? Yeah, good point. The turnover rate of employees at Waffle House.
Oh, she said her name there.
If you're getting fired for fights,
there we go.
You're gonna be going through new employees once a week. It's so sad how such a
okay. She just said her first name
could turn into something so devastating for her career. Because she's still out of a job, to my knowledge, which is shocking. I would have thought like some other corporation or something would have picked her up just even to capitalize off of like the viral marketing capabilities she now has. But to my knowledge, that hasn't happened. So I feel really bad for her because, again, I feel like she was just defending herself from the chair being thrown at her as well as just like the general brawl.
Bro, she could be the security guard.
Waffle House. And yeah, that's about it. So yeah.
She's not blacklisted from Waffle House. She simply fought so well that Waffle House pardoned her freedom from their gladiator arena gladiatorial. That's a new word. Arena. She literally caught the chair, diffused all its momentum, and then dropped it. Literally perfect. As someone who has been going to Waffle House for over 15 years, I almost feel cheated for having never seen a fight break out at one of their establishment's arenas. Oh my god. Bruh, yeah, it's like, it is like really wild. Oh man. What are my experiences? Let me try to remember. They were more somber, like nothing going on too much. Yeah, not a lot happens here. There are like the Karens, I think, but that's like the least of the worries. Oh yeah, I want to see this crazy vegan with you guys. Like God, she is so bad. Uh vegan gays, I think it was. Bro, she is crazy. And you guys are gonna see.
Talk about the Logan Paul pig
Okay, so she's gonna, go on with her points, but I'm gonna tell you guys why she's crazy. Just watch, just watch.
controversy. And further into the video, we're going to be exploring one of the other issues that comes as a result of Deaf Noodles exposing this story. It seems that Logan Paul can't keep out of trouble. As probably the recent result of CoffeeZilla exposing Logan Paul's Crypto Zoo incident, it seems like more people are talking about him in a negative light, and that possibly influenced this tweet by Deaf Noodles. Deaf Noodles said, Logan Paul's pig Pearl found nearly dead, abandoned and maimed. Absolutely disgusting. And of a caption by the Gentle Barn Sanctuary saying, Pearl was found alone in a field next to another pig who had passed away. She came to us with tattered ears and potentially life-threatening infection in her uterus that has since been healed. She's clearly been through so much trauma that we can't begin to imagine, but she's now safe with us at the Gentle Barn. From what we've been told, it's believed she was purchased originally from a breeder by an influencer. People often buy mini pigs or teacup pigs for clout online, believing they will stay small. When they inevitably grow very large and have many unexpected needs, they're sadly discarded. While we don't know everything she's been through in her past, we know that her life is now filled with friends, nutritious food, the highest quality care, and so much love. Now, there's so many issues with this already. Buying from a breeder, that comes with a whole host of problems, and usually...
Okay, so yeah, I can agree with her on this. Like, breeders of any type, especially like pit bulls as well, they will just overbreed them and give them to the worst owners possible. That I can't agree with her.
The result of that is that animals have their needs neglected, they end up being killed. The pet trade is this whole beast that I cannot even begin to cover in this video, so we'll move on from that, and we'll explore whether or not the accusations towards Logan Paul are legitimate or not, whether or not Pearl was actually in this state as a result of Logan Paul. I found the screen grab, and apparently this is Logan Paul responding to the whole incident. Dear Gentle Barn, it was just...
So she kind of learned me in. She was like, okay, she's making like some decent points, but like I said, you guys are going to see.
My attention to the pig. I own nearly 2 years ago. Pearl was rescued and rehomed by your organisation. With every ounce of gratitude I have, thank you. Pearl lived very happily at my home in Encino for about 2 years. She was treated like the princess she is, bathed regularly, ate a variety of healthy meals, roamed the yard, and had a shelter and pen of her own. I'd even sleep with her sometimes. You'll come to find she's a very friendly pig and loves to cuddle. When I moved to Puerto Rico in April 2020, she was unable to come with me, so she was rehomed at a horse ranch in Santa Clarita. From my understanding, she lived fruitfully there for about 10 months until that homeowner moved as well. Pearl was then rehomed to the farmer across the street with the promise of care. I've heard that he called your organisation to pick her up. It's shocking and heartbreaking to hear the state she was found. I wanted to reach out personally and say thank you for taking her in. For what it's worth, I'd love to send a token of my gratitude to your organisation for taking Pearl and doing something so kind. I thought she was a good home, but regardless, she is now, and I'd like to contribute to her again. I can't thank you enough for stepping in. Please let me know how else I can be supportive. Best, Logs. Now, I don't know how legitimate this is, and yeah, I just kind of... You can't control what other people are going to do with someone else.
Okay, so yeah, let's get this cleared up. So I think he did genuinely feel this way, but I think he just gets these animals for clicks and views and for clout because he was trying to clear his name from the forest, and he just moves on to another animal. We've seen this constantly.
But at the same time, I struggle to see how someone with so many resources, so much money, had even a position where they couldn't look after this pig. It's not like Logan Paul doesn't have a track history of animal abuse. There have been many cases where he's been called out for his behaviour. It seems like one of the fundamental problems is his lack of consideration for others. But that seems to bleed into a lot of the things that he gets slack for. And it's not like, okay, the side forest thing that happened a long time ago, that's in the past and people can indeed change. But at the same time, with this whole crypto thing that recently happened, it seems like he doesn't...
I like how she like she's about to go ballistic, so. But keep in mind, like this forest thing, she kind of makes it not that big of a deal compared to what she's about to go. Human life compared to what she's about to go into. Not saying, in some regard it's not the same, but she just loses her mind.
Really consider others. So it wouldn't be really a shock if he wasn't considering Pearl and her needs and was so nonchalant towards that it ended up in her being in a situation where she potentially could be at risk, and she ended up being at risk and being harmed as a result. So Logan Paul, he does like to shirk responsibility. He doesn't really take accountability as much as I'd like to see. He could definitely take more accountability in this instance for his lack of consideration. But let's not forget the person who made this tweet, Deaf Noodles. This is something that's really interesting to speak
Bro, Deaf Noodles still has me blocked. Oh my god, this guy. Like, I legit, if you guys don't recall, I legit said Deaf Noodles said, I just told him that he canceled his comedy club, and then he just blocks me afterwards. Like, there's like a few select people that just like follow up with him. And the thing is, people just like, they've already lost interest. Like, he has like a few fans, but like, golly, it's like, nah, like he really fell off. And I'm a small channel, but from where he was to neglect his fans, I'm like, I'm really sorry,
And actually,
dude.
this is close to my heart currently. Because I'd like to share with you something that I've seen very recently. Now, Def Noodles, I'm not really sure whether or not he is vegan. It seems in
He's
some
not.
of the videos that I found of him talking about veganism, he hasn't really given too much of an opinion, but I can kind of infer from what he's saying that he isn't one, and that he doesn't really have too much of a sympathetic response to animal rights or vegan.
I told these crazy vegans I'm an omnivore, but they're like, you're a carnist. They're really fun to toy around with too, because they don't shut up and they just are really loud and make people eat more meat.
Yeah, Tiana, you want to stop eating meat just in case I ever get a private jet?
Off.
Oh wow. Hey, Israel, you want to just?
No, just no.
Wow, tough crowd.
Dude, yeah, these skits were like so bad. Like, what were you thinking, dog? Like, come on, my guy.
Now, someone who is not very happy is a vegan teacher.
Eating animals is wrong, Gordon Ramsay. Burning.
Okay, so yeah, she's now referencing the vegan teacher, and this is where my point is, because the vegan teacher is just for outrage and chaos. She's chaotic, bad, I would say. However that ranking system works, but she does not give a damn because she kind of uses human tragedy to kind of deflect and also justify the things she says, because like no human life matters unless animal life matters, or in this case no human rights matters until animal rights matter. That's kind of her philosophy, and this YouTuber, like, I kind of feel like she's like on the same plane of existence and insanity as vegan teacher, dog.
Animals is wrong, Gordon Ramsay. Share this song. And if you call me a donut, it's fine.
Vegan
As long as
donut.
you're vegan from now on.
How incredibly insensitive of Gordon Ramsay to take a huge bite out of a burger right in front of the vegan teacher. He should get detention for that.
The day Gordon Ramsay duetted me, I fell to my knees and cried.
Oh, the agony just tugs at your heartstrings, doesn't it? And now a palate cleanser.
If
Yeah,
you
this
think
was
it's
his old
disgusting
content.
that Pearl was found nearly dead, abandoned, and maimed, then I really hope that you don't pay for these animals to be consumed or eat any of their secretions. That's pigs, cows, chickens, sheep, any of
Sorry, I gotta eat meat, dude. Like, I'm sorry.
these animals who are typically used for consumption or for various body parts or secretions. Because if you are, then you are paying for rights violations. You're paying for things that you believe to be disgusting. And you don't
Imagine being so delusional and like stubborn that you think you're always right. Like, goddamn.
really understand quite the scope of how
Now, I do understand like these concentrations that have animals like all like bunched up together. Yeah, I do understand. And I think it is excessive. Like, especially it's like a lot of them, and then a lot of like meat gets discarded. I do understand like the mass production, and when it gets like wasted in a large amount, like, yeah, like that is like that definitely needs to be controlled. But like the fact they're over here trying to act like the moral authority is hilarious, dude, because not everybody could be vegan. I don't know what it is these vegans don't understand. Not everybody can be vegan. And she's like, oh, just because you care about this doesn't mean you actually care, because you got to care about all animals. Like,
how many animals end up dead as a result of the animal agriculture industry. With my own eyes recently, allow me to show you a picture of what I saw at a pig farm that
I don't know if I can show this. Hold on, let me look at that image. I want to see. I don't know if I could show that because, guidelines. Bro, I've been dissed in the comments section, dog. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, in that regards, yeah, I can't show that. That is like really gruesome. Okay, so yeah, let's get that thing I just said. I said it, that I think with all these like excessive, like she said, agriculture, yes, I do agree. But like the fact she wants everybody to be vegan, like, come on, like, man, like she's just trying to cause iron deficiencies. That's like my problem. Like she was like on point until she started believing her own delusion and insanity. She's probably gonna plead an insanity if she ever testifies like
I
this.
could forever home this animal, otherwise there's literally no point, okay? And it's not like, oh, he had one and learned the hard way. He has taken care of animals before, and they mysteriously go missing, people don't hear from them and they're wondering where they've gone. You should, with your resources, be able to, you know, take these animals with you. Oh, I'm sorry, now you want to go away on a trip. You know, for God's sake, Logan has enough money that he could have literally paid someone to be a live-in sitter for Pearl or have her looked after by somebody until he returned. It just sounds like pure copium, which Logan, you know, it's not like he never engages in this stuff. So all around, this whole pig incident is a big problem, and it's good that she's in the hands of the Gentle Barn, you know, a sanctuary that will actually consider her as an individual, unlike somebody like Logan. And Deaf Noodles, if you find this disgusting, then I really hope you are not paying for rights violations of animals and you are indeed vegan. But thank you ever so much for watching. I do hope you're well. And
Okay, so yeah, this is kind of in a gray area since I know Pearl was a pet compared to like the other pigs. I do understand that. Because you know where I live in a rural area, there's like a lot of farm animals. Like my neighbors legit have a pet pig, dude. And yeah, she's like really cool. Like we always like her, you know, being around. And and yeah, we do like empathize with that, but we kind of understand sometimes that we kind of need like the proteins and stuff like that because it really, you know, gets us on our way and, you know, kind of makes us feel efficient. And like I said, not everybody could be vegan. Like, oh my God. Like, she's just trying to do this guilt trip, like, method. I've seen it, like, on Twitter when I, like, go after these vegans and kind of have fun with them. You know, I like to play with my food, bro, and just, like, mess with these vegans because, like, God. I don't know, dog. It's just like, it's just like, I don't know. There's, like, so much, you know, that we could, like, discuss on this and try to look for a more healthy solution, but, like, the way she was going about that is ridiculous. Like, she was like, okay, she's going somewhere. Like, okay, she's making sense. She references the vegan teacher. Oh my God. You just lost all credibility, dog. I don't know, dude. Okay, what else was I was gonna react to some more things from yesterday. We already saw the psychiatrist, the psychic. We saw Tory Lane's. We saw the Waffle House. Like, I wanted to review that yesterday, but it was getting late. But yeah, I was like able to watch those. I don't know what else should we watch. Oh yeah, I wanted to see Sunny. Oh my God, dude! Like, I don't miss BuzzFeed, but you know, I kind of miss like unsolved mysteries. It's like not the same without you know the gang.
There are 5 cases from BuzzFeed Unsolved which have now either been fully or significantly solved, and we're going to begin by looking at Forrest Fenn's treasure, which finally came to a full conclusion back in June 2020. Brian and Shane investigated the mystery 2 years prior in September 2018, during which they explained that world-renowned treasure collector Forrest Fenn had hidden an actual treasure chest somewhere in the Rocky Mountains, which contained over $1 million worth of valuable antiquities. In Forrest Fenn's memoir, he wrote a 24-line poem which included 9 hidden clues on how to find the treasure, and while the concept seemed fairly simple, over 65,000 people had attempted to find the treasure to no avail. Brian and Shane then explained that the treasure could be found in one of 4 specific US states.
The treasure is located in either Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, or New Mexico. Of the 4 states listed by Fenn, I tend to lean towards New Mexico or Wyoming. Wyoming, because a majority of Yellowstone National Park resides within that state, and Yellowstone was a place where Fenn spent his formative years camping with his father.
And although Wyoming seemed like the most likely location for the treasure, the boys eventually settled on looking in New Mexico, flying to the state with over a month's worth of research under their belt. Ryan and Shane looked at 3 different locations in New Mexico, put up with bad weather and rough terrain, and at one point even thought that they had found the treasure.
That right there. Look, there's a box. What do you mean this box? Is that a box or just a square rock? That is a very, very square rock.
However, the trip ultimately ended with the boys leaving empty-handed.
I think we may just have to come to terms with the fact that we're not going home with treasure.
And the location of Forrest Fenn's treasure remained a mystery. That would be until approximately 2 years later on the 6th of June 2020 when the following post was made to Forrest Fenn's personal blog. It was under a canopy of stars in the lush forested vegetation of the Rocky Mountains and did not move from the spot where I hid it more than 10 years ago. I do not know the person who found it, but the poem in my book led him to the precise spot. I congratulate the thousands of people who participated in the search and hope they will continue to be drawn by the promise of other discoveries. So the search is over. Look for more information and photos in the coming days. Forrest. As promised, this photo showed up on the blog in the days that followed, before these two were also posted, confirming that the treasure had in fact been found. 1 month later, it was revealed that the treasure was found in Wyoming, which was one of the 2 states highlighted in the BuzzFeed
Oh my god, dude, the Annabelle episode is my favorite. Even like the Goat Bridge is funny as well.
episode, although not the state that the boys eventually went to. 6 months later in December 2020, the person who had found the treasure finally revealed himself as 32-year-old medical student Jack Stoof, who coincidentally used to be one of BuzzFeed's writers. Jack had found out about the case in 2018, the same year that Ryan and Shane investigated it, and stated that he thought about it for at least a couple hours a day every day since he learned about it, also adding that he planned on selling the treasure to pay off his student loans. The treasure went up for auction on the 13th of December 2022, and after a whopping 1,643 bids, eventually sold for an impressive $1.3 million. And while it took over 10 years for someone to eventually find the treasure, this is nothing when compared to the boy in the box, who was recently identified after 65 years of mystery. Ryan and Shane covered the boy in the box back in August 2017, with the major details being that in 1957, a box was found on the side of a road in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which contained the body of a boy between 4 and 6 years of age. The box had serial numbers on the outside, a blanket on the inside, and items of clothing scattered around it. However, despite having access to numerous pieces of evidence, authorities were unable to identify who the boy was. For this reason, the boy was buried with a gravestone reading America's Unknown Child, which accompanied a sign on the street where the boy was found reading, "This unknown child became known as the boy in the box. He has never been identified. His case remains open. He is now called America's Unknown Child." His body had been exhumed on 2 separate occasions in 1998 and 2019, with the goal of running his DNA through genealogy databases. The 1998 test was unsuccessful. However, by 2019, testing had become significantly more advanced, and while the victim's DNA was so degraded that it took 2.5 years of work to be able to extract enough data to perform the genealogy, on the 8th of December 2022, the boy in the box was identified as Joseph Augustus Zarelli. His DNA was uploaded to genetic databases, which led detectives to relatives on his mother's side. After pouring through birth records, they were also able to identify his father. They also learned that Zarelli's mother had 3 other children. Police refused to speculate on who killed Zarelli, though they noted, "We have our suspicions," meaning that while this identification is extremely fresh at the time of making this video, it's possible that the case could be fully solved sometime in the near future. However, if we're on the topic of fresh identifications, then we have to talk about the Lady of the Dunes, who after 48 years of mystery was finally identified on the 31st of October 2022, just 38 days before the boy in the box. When Ryan and Shane looked into the Lady of the Dunes back in March 2020, they explained that she was found deceased on a beach in Provincetown, Massachusetts, yet because she'd been lying there for such a long period of time, the Lady of the Dunes had become unidentifiable.
Despite using bloodhounds, studying missing persons bulletins, scouring the registers of local lodgings, and looking into anyone who had a permit to bring their vehicle into the area, police turned up nothing.
The Lady of the Dunes also had extremely recognizable dental work. However, despite this and numerous different police sketches, nobody knew who she was. Similar to the boy in the box, the Lady of the Dunes was exhumed for DNA on 3 separate occasions in 1980, 2000, and 2013, although none of these resulted in her identification, leading the boys to state this.
For that to produce no kind of DNA evidence of like who this person is, it's kind of insane to me because 1974 is not that long ago.
No.
You would think that DNA would be fresh enough that you could figure out this person's identity.
What Ryan and Shane didn't know at the time was that within 2.5 years, the Lady of the Dunes' unknown son would undertake a DNA test with Ancestry.com, providing genealogy databases with enough evidence for the Lady of the Dunes to be identified. On October 31st, the FBI announced it finally identified the woman as Ruth Marie Terry, a native of Tennessee who was 37 at the time of her death. At the time of her disappearance, Ruth Marie Terry had mentioned to family that she was traveling to Massachusetts with her husband Guy Moldalvin, who's now become the main suspect in the case. Despite being married at the time, Guy never officially reported the disappearance of his wife to the police and conveniently remarried a year later as if nothing had ever happened. What's even crazier is that Guy Moldalvin's previous wife had also gone missing and was eventually found dead alongside his daughter inside a septic tank on Guy's Seattle home. He served only 2 years in prison before being released, which was followed by him marrying Ruth Marie Terry, who was then found in the dunes only 5 months later. Guy Moldalvin died in 2002. However, if he is eventually found to be guilty, Ryan and Shane were correct in suggesting this.
It would seem that this was done by somebody who wasn't, I guess, like an amateur.
As well as this.
The unidentified victim would have known her murderer.
Yet we're incorrect in suggesting that the crime had been done by an Italian mob boss or schizophrenic prison inmate Haddon Clark. However, in the case of Amelia Earhart, one of the theories put forward by the boys eventually turned out to be true. Ryan and Shane explained that Amelia Earhart was trying to become the first woman to fly around the world. However, on the stretch between Papua New Guinea and the Howland Islands in the South Pacific,
oh
Amelia
my
Earhart
god, bro, I remember years later they found
navigator Frank Noonan, as well as their plane vanished and were never found again. The main theory put forward in the unsolved episode was that Earhart's plane had run out of fuel and either crashed into the ocean or had successfully made a crash landing on the South Pacific island of Nkumaroro. Evidence for the successful crash landing was that 2 years after Earhart's disappearance, a British colonial officer by the name of Gerald Gallagher found a campfire, sextant, and a partial human skeleton on the previously uninhabited island. The bones were sent to a physician in Fiji, who concluded that they most likely belonged to a male who was short, stocky, and of European descent, eliminating the possibility that the bones belonged to Earhart. However, Ryan went on to explain that at a later date, the bones had been run through an updated database, which suggested that they could have belonged to to a tall woman of European descent, which fit the description of Earhart perfectly. Well, approximately a year after the BuzzFeed Unsolved episode was uploaded, an article popped up on NPR.org titled "New Research Claims Bones Found 80 Years Ago on Pacific Atoll Likely Amelia Earhart's," which explained that the bones had been run through Modern Ancestry Program 4-disc, which found that Hoodless had incorrectly determined the sex of the remains. The data revealed that the bones have more similarity to Earhart than to 99% of individuals in a large reference sample. It's a bit of a stretch to call the case of Amelia Earhart solved based on a couple of correctly sized bones. However, there's significantly better evidence for the person featured in BuzzFeed Unsolved's very first episode, the Somerton Man, who was finally identified in July 2022 after 74 years of mystery. The Somerton Man was found dead on a beach in Adelaide, Australia back in 1948, dressed immaculately in a full suit with polished shoes. Strangely enough, all of the tags had been removed from his clothing, with his fingerprints failing to hint at who he might be. The case became even weirder when a torn piece of paper was found sewn into his pants, with the Persian phrase "Tamam Shud" written on it, which translated to "It has ended," with the case reaching even deeper levels of weird when someone brought in the book from which the paper had been torn, explaining that he found the book in the back of his car, which was parked near Somerton Beach. When the boys revisited the case in season 6, they talked extensively about the University of Adelaide professor Derek Abbott, who was seemingly the most determined as well as the closest to figuring out who the Somerton Man was. Well, it will be only 2 years and 3 months after this BuzzFeed Unsolved episode that Derek Abbott would finally achieve a breakthrough using the Somerton Man's hair.
We looked for people with no date of death on that tree, and there was one that stood out.
By using the DNA of a distant cousin living in Melbourne, Derek Abbott was finally able to confirm that the Somerton Man went by the name of Charles Webb.
It was at this point that we knew that Charles Webb was the Somerton Man, and we'd finally cracked it.
It's not the Somerton Man story now. This is the Charles Webb story.
The theories put forward in the BuzzFeed Unsolved episodes, such as the Somerton Man was a Russian spy or a ballet dancer, were disproven after Derek Abbott revealed that Charles Webb simply grew up working in a bakery while playing football on the weekends. However, the other tragic detail revealed in the episode of Australian Story was that prior to being found on the beach, the Somerton Man was living an incredibly lonely life.
He didn't have any friends. Not at all a happy person. Turns out that Charles loved to write poetry, and his favourite subject that he would write about was death. This story turns out that it's not some wild spy drama. It's really a sad, tragic, domestic situation.
Damn. Bro, oh my god, I can't believe it. The fact that a BuzzFeed writer found a treasure because of that episode is insane. Wait, I didn't pay attention to the boy in the box.
The same year that Ryan and Shane investigated it and stated that he thought about it for at least, although not the state that the boys eventually went to. 6 months later in December 2020, the person who, while it took over 10 years for someone to age, the box had serial numbers on the outside, a blanket on the inside, and items of clothing scattered around it. However, despite having access to numerous pieces of evidence, authorities were unable to identify who the boy was. For this reason, the boy was buried with a gravestone reading "America's Unknown Child," which accompanied a sign on the street where the boy was found reading, "This unknown child became known as the boy in the box. He has never been identified. His case remains open. He is now called America's Unknown Child." His body had been exhumed on 2 separate occasions in 1998 and 2019, with the goal of running his DNA through genealogy databases. The 1998 test was unsuccessful. However, by 2019, testing had become significantly more advanced, and while the victim's DNA was so degraded that it took 2.5 years of work to be able to extract enough data to perform the genealogy, on the 8th of December 2022, the boy in the box was identified as Joseph Augustus Zarelli. His DNA was uploaded to genetic databases, which led detectives to relatives on his mother's side. After pouring through birth records, they were also able to identify his father. They also learned that Zarelli's mother had 3 other children. Police refused to speculate on who killed Zarelli, though they noted, "We have our suspicions," meaning that while this identification is extremely fresh at the time of making this video, it's possible that the case could be fully solved sometime in the near future. However, if we're on the topic of fresh identifications, then we have to talk about the Lady of the Dunes, who after 48 years of mystery was finally identified on the 31st of October 2022, just 38 days before the boy in the box. When Ryan and Shane looked into the Lady of the Dunes back in March 2020, they explained that she was found deceased on a beach in Provincetown, Massachusetts, yet because she'd been lying there for such a long period of time, the Lady of the Dunes had become unidentifiable.
Despite using bloodhounds, studying missing persons bulletins, scouring the registers of local lodgings, and looking into anyone who had a permit to bring their vehicle into the area, police turned up nothing.
The Lady of the Dunes also had extremely recognizable dental work. However, despite this and numerous different police sketches, nobody knew who she was. Similar to the boy in the box, the Lady of the Dunes was exhumed for DNA on 3 separate occasions in 1980, 2000, and 2013, although none of these resulted in her identification, leading the boys to state this.
For that to produce no kind of DNA evidence of like who this person is, it's kind of insane to me because 1974 is not that long ago.
No.
You would think that DNA would be fresh enough that you could figure out this person's identity.
What Ryan and Shane didn't know at the time was that within 2.5 years, the Lady of the Dunes' unknown son would undertake a DNA test with Ancestry.com, providing genealogy databases with enough evidence for the Lady of the Dunes to be identified. On October 31st, the FBI announced it finally identified the woman as Ruth Marie Terry, a native of Tennessee who was 37 at the time of her death. At the time of her disappearance, Ruth Marie Terry had mentioned to family that she was traveling to Massachusetts with her husband Guy Moldalvin, who's now become the main suspect in the case. Despite being married at the time, Guy never officially reported the disappearance of his wife to the police and conveniently remarried a year later as if nothing had ever happened. What's even crazier is that Guy Moldalvin's previous wife had also gone missing and was eventually found dead alongside his daughter inside a septic tank on Guy's Seattle home. He served only 2 years in prison before being released, which was followed by him marrying Ruth Marie Terry, who was then found in the dunes only 5 months later. Guy Moldalvin died in 2002. However, if he is eventually found to be guilty, Ryan and Shane were correct in suggesting this.
It would seem that this was done by somebody who wasn't, I guess, like an amateur.
As well as this.
The unidentified unidentified victim would have known her murderer.
Yet we're incorrect in suggesting that the crime had been done by an Italian mob boss or schizophrenic prison inmate Haddon Clark. However, in the case of Amelia Earhart, one of the theories put forward by the boys eventually turned.
Wait, what happened to the boys in the block? Sorry, I got lost. Oh my god. Yeah, it is really crazy. Like, crimes are like finally, coming to light. Okay. I think that's all I wanted to like finish up and wrap up what I wanted to talk about. So yeah, it was a good stream. I'm gonna be looking into like more like lighter material tomorrow. Like, well, not because it still has some things, but it's not as bad as what we saw today. Because today was more realistic and gruesome. But tomorrow I believe it's not gonna be like that. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'm out.